Hi everyone, and welcome to Dose of Truth Tarot. We're looking at the swords. We had a question and everything this week. Well done, everyone.
Yeah, which was really nice. So first thing, smash that like button, subscribe, and make some comments. Tell us what you want to know about. When you're listening to the video, take some notes and see what's rising up for you, whether you're a seasoned tarot reader, beginner's tarot reader. We can kind of cover different topics. So what came up was healthy intellect versus, well, it's not really unhealthy, actually. There isn't really an opposite, that there's unhealthy intellect. Mind, because the mind does what it does. And part of what it does is just has all these thoughts, and then we think we're thinking if we start sorting them out and analyzing them. But actually, you're playing in a bunch of disassociated, conditioned content. I suppose that's the easiest way I can explain it. I don't know. Do you have a better way? Like what's in the mind?
Like when you were talking then, I was thinking of a book. It's almost like there's this whole like recipe book of things that your mind thinks. It's like, oh, today we're playing that record again, and
Yeah, there's that, and then there's our active. In our active, it's so hard to look at these things because you can't put them into words necessarily. But I'm going to do my best. We talk about the vertical, we talk about the self, and that's the capital S, self. And we're always seeking to find out who we are. And what is so terrible for us is that we don't like to just experience being or isness or beingness. What we want to do is say, I am like this. So you always bring up the hats that we wear. This is a little bit deeper because the hat that you wear as a practitioner, a doctor, merchant chief, etc., you wear that hat and then you can take it off. Of course, some people don't take it off. Some people always act that role wherever they go. I'm this, I'm that, I'm a practitioner. Sure, you can do that. But we have identities that are strongly supported by the mind. We'll say because, and because is that word that most, if you listen to people who talk about convincing other people or, brainwashing people or influencing, to influence someone, all you need to say is because, and you get the stupidest reason afterwards. You don't even have to, it's like, well, just because. And somehow, as soon as we hear it, we kind of go for it. Like it's just because.
we accept it, yeah.
Yeah, we accept it. There are experiments done on because.
Yeah.
Just using the word because. Even when I deal with clients, they'll say something and they'll give a litany of becauses. And it's really the downloading of the content of our mind. So Esther Veltheim, I'll quote her, she says, the contents of your mind is not a commentary on you. That's a very powerful statement because we think whatever the mind says is a commentary on us.
Yeah. So
that's the you could say the unhealthy aspect of mind is when we believe the content. So there's this, it's almost like a scrambled table of contents in the book you just brought up, Eloise. So it's all scrambled and we sort it out as a massive defense system for who we are, even if that identity is horrible. Like, I'm pathetic, I'm incapable, I don't know how to be responsible, I don't know what to do. And even if you're told, well, why don't you try one thing to be responsible?
I can't do that because.
I can't do that because, exactly.
Here's my story.
Right? So when you're reading the cards and you get the swords, you you can sort through it. It's going to depend on the other cards, of course, but the swords often look ugly. So we know a sword can prick us, it can cut us, it can kill us, it can decapitate. So when you look at, I don't know, I'm going into, I've been looking at what are my monsters, right, in life, like that quote from Nietzsche. You're fighting monsters, be careful you don't become the monster. And when you look into the abyss looks back at you. And it's true. I see people dealing with something and they keep trying to fight it, and then they become it. That's all they do all day is fight that demon, and that demon is only within the contents of the mind. Well, I could say that, but somehow it actually integrates in the body, and we really believe that's it. That's all. So it's a little deep for tarot, but just for a tarot video. But maybe it's what we need to hear. I don't know.
Yeah.
So when I look at the swords and I look at the rest of the cards, you can look at the swords and go, Ace of Swords. Let me just bring it up. Nice Ace of Swords. All right, so you bring up the Ace of Swords and you go, well, an idea has come. Yeah, but what if that idea is I'm really incompetent? So it's like, there's the sword, here's the idea, I am incompetent and I stab myself.
Yay.
Right? So we can know that, maybe, let's say we just use the suit of swords. You have the Ace of Swords, then you have the Three of Swords. So, okay, something is now attacking. So it's not an idea like, oh, I'd like to paint a painting. Let me think about this. Or I'd like to, start something new. Let me think about it. No, I don't do that. I don't start looking at what I'd like to do. I start looking at how stupid I am, or how incompetent I am, or I can't do it. So you're stuck in this contents. So that's the discernment. Now, this person asked whether there is healthy intellect. Well, I just mentioned it. Sure, you come up with an idea, and in Three of Swords, you could trash the idea.
Yeah.
You could literally trash it, and you really like it, but you'd have to trash it. Like, let's say you want to become a doctor, you have this idea, you're trying to figure it out, and you can't do it because you just don't have the finances, and you think you can never get the finances, so you can't become a doctor. That could be very typical for us humans. I want to become a doctor. It's really expensive. And all right, so how do I do this? If this is really what I want to do. Well, you know what? I'm going to take the next 10 years to save the money. Then I'm going to go and be a doctor. Right? But if I think I just want the goal, the outcome, and I want it now, and I want it to be happening now, you've already used something against yourself. Because, in the vertical, there's no time or space. So who cares when you do it?
Yeah.
You can do it anytime you want. But we have this time constraint.
This thing that we want everything now.
Yeah, we want it now. We want it the way we want it, which is sure, you can use the swords to organize and plan something. Then you write it down, which would be earth elements, because it's physical. And then you start, working towards it, but there's variations along the path. You might have to pick up if you're walking down a path and there's a massive boulder in front of you, and you go, oh, I can either stop here, which would be here, I'm in 4, I get to 5. I have to stop here now. Oh, I'll never make it. But that's not the hero's journey.
You're always going to have a challenge.
That's not the hero's journey. To step back. You constantly step back. You constantly go into resentment and self-pity. No, I'm going to figure out how to break this boulder. And in that process, that journey, there is something for us in that journey. There's something that we need to either develop. I mean, if I want to be a CEO of a company, but I'm not willing to figure out how to move that boulder, what kind of CEO will I be? Because those boulders arrive all the time. they arrive all the time. Problems arrive. If there's money problems or development problems, let's say you're running a company that's developing a product, and machinery can break down in a factory. You've got to fix these things. They happen constantly. Yeah. And we think, no. So that's when the swords become pathological. But if you're going right through the swords from 1 to 10, well, great, because you're going through those moments where you can't figure out something and then you figure it out. Of course, you can have, beautiful, healthy intellect, and you can see the pitfalls. And sometimes you can't just go through your pitfalls in your mind. So even since we're using the swords, as I'm talking here, I have an understanding of these cards. And many other things in my life have helped me understand. I'm sure you can relate to this, Eloise. I mean, Eloise and I do much the same thing. And then you speak it. And every time you speak it, there's a deepening in the central nervous system of that understanding. So the body mind understands. It's not even understanding. There's an awareness. There's you have something. Awareness. It's also like you can make a cup of coffee or tea in your house. Where the tea bags are, you go to get it. Go to a stranger's house and they say, go help yourself to a cup of tea. And you're
opening all the cupboards.
Yeah, and you can also be a little bit gobsmacked, right? Like, oh, where is it? And depending on your belief systems, do I go through all these things? And I feel a little strange. You might go back and say to the person, where approximately would the tea bags be? And, it's a very different process. Or you look at a coffee machine you've never seen before. So this automated process of making coffee now becomes, oops, I can't make the cup of coffee. I have no idea how this works. You have to figure it out. There's an obstacle, a block. But if the mind interferes, you're not going to make that coffee.
Yeah. It's too difficult. Run away. We hit a boulder.
Well, it could be that it's too difficult, but it can also be, we can have such a strong, I don't know if you have this, Eloise, but I do. If I go into someone's house, I have a strong, I don't know about now, it's years now and things have changed, but shifted for me. But I have this strong sense I can't touch anything because I'm clumsy. Oh. Yeah, I'm very clumsy and I break things. So I freeze. I naturally freeze because I'm so worried and so nervous I'll break something. Like I can break anything. It's like so bizarre. And things just break around me too.
This is too funny. I think if someone comes to my house, I want to do everything for them.
Yes, you do. I've been to your house and you do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's not every house.
No.
But what if somebody comes and stays for a while, 10 days or something, you're all prepared to do things for them. What if they stay a month? After a while, it's like, well, I can't sit around doing things for you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to tell you how to make a cup of coffee.
You're going to have to learn how to make a cup of coffee. You're going to have to learn, where the food is. And if there's no food, you need to go find the shop because I can't do this for you all the time. I have my own life. Yeah. I'm impressed with people who just come in and just do whatever it is. And I love it too, because, I just don't have the time and wherewithal to be cleaning up things and cooking things and taking care of things. So it's great that somebody would come in and do that. But that's not so much that could also, that impresses me. So their minds don't have these kind of barriers, to will I break something?
Never enters my head.
Doesn't enter your head, right? It's not your pattern.
Yeah.
It's not what happens to you. There was a joke when I was growing up that glasses around Terryann, they're going to be broken.
Oh, that's weird. I quite like going into people's kitchen and seeing how they've arranged things. because I think it always shows how their mind works in a way. It's like, are the tea bags near the kettle? Or like, is everything like in zones to make like for day-to-day stuff? I always find that fascinating. Or is everything everywhere and it's just this mesh? Kind of fun.
No, it's true. You get to see how people's minds work. Yes. Yeah. I remember my mother would organize the kitchen, and my grandmother and I would look at it and start maneuvering and go, how does she think? So she thinks so differently. But my grandmother and I would think the same way. Not that it really matters if that's convenient to you and you're the one taking care of things.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do it. But I organized the kitchen there's not just the organization of whether the tea bags are there, but it's all the stuff that you have and where it's going to fit, right? I would prefer my kitchen to be a different way. But the way the closets are, the new closets are weird. The cupboards, I mean, and they're not closets, they're cupboards. They're strange. They're not as deep as they used to be. Like you could put a bowl in and the door doesn't close, or you can't put a pot in because the door, it's very bizarre. Very bizarre. And then you have these really deep closets and you have to stack your pots and pans. So you buy little shelves so you can put the pans properly. But it is a little bit of a hassle, It's a little bit strange. Now they do drawers and stuff. It's really interesting. But yeah, the way mine is, there's a lot of cupboard space and there's a pantry, but still quite difficult. There even isn't enough drawer space because I like everything that I'll say tea towels. I want them in one place. I don't want to put them everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't like just going around and saying, okay, well, they're leftover ones. So the drawer isn't deep enough to hold all the tea towels. And there aren't that many. We almost use all of them. So yes, it's how your mind works, but it's also
within the confinement of the cupboards. Yeah.
Within the confinement of the cupboard. So when Jimmy looks at it, my husband, he'll say, I would do it differently. And I'm like, well, how would he do it? Like, what would be so different? And he's done that before to me. I would do this different, and then he would redo it and goes, I see why you did it in that way. And I also, because I have this back leg problem, whatever I need on a daily basis is at, face level. Otherwise I'd be breaking and banging things all the time. So in any case, I think Eloise and I have just demonstrated going from 1 to 10 in a story here. A story about putting together cupboards and how you're going to do it and the confines. And, this is how you get through it.
Yeah.
You don't just give up in the middle and just stuff everything in one place so you can't get it. But some people do. I've seen people who leave lots of dishes in the kitchen. I thought that's so bizarre. They don't wash their dishes and they're piled up, and I'm like, oh my God, how can you live like this? Right? How is it possible to continue? Like, you come home from work and you can't get a dish and you have to clean it, and you have to, for me, it's have the kitchen ready so when someone goes in to do something, because we have a few people in the family, so they have to go in and do things, and it's convenient to make the changes. So everyone kind of fits in the into the system or whatever. So yes, that would be using the intellect properly, which we know is also liver energy and organizing and planning and that kind of thing, which you can apply to your cards. If you notice liver and gallbladder in Chinese medicine, it's easy to look that up. You can see all the different organs have a consciousness, so you know exactly where you're working. So remember, if all the organs have a consciousness, that would be mind. But analyzing all of the mind and saying this is good or bad, now you're in a problem, because there isn't a good or bad.
Yeah.
And a lot of people bring up morality. Well, yes, there is a good or bad because there is morality. That's a philosophical discussion, and you're not going to be able to tell somebody what is moral or immoral. I think we know innately what is moral and immoral, and we do immoral things, a lot of immoral things that are against the the nature of life, and we know that they're immoral because once we've done them, we feel badly.
Yeah.
Or we overly defend that it's positive. I don't really want to state what is moral or immoral in a more generalized sense, because this is up to the individual to figure out. But murder,
Yeah.
right? Is it moral or immoral? Well, we know it's terrible. We know even in war that soldiers, find it difficult to kill. When they shoot, generally they shoot up in the air so they don't hit anybody. This is something I heard recently. And I thought, oh, wow, that's so interesting. But if someone's going to come really close and go to kill you, you're going to shoot them. But it doesn't feel good. People are shell shocked. This is horrible to see death. This is the way we experience the world. So, and sometimes, but is murder good or bad? Well, it's going to depend on the situation. If it's self-defense, it's self-defense.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you're going to ever feel good about it. Even if I had to kill someone in self-defense or hurt someone, I don't think that I could ever feel good about it. It would be a trauma that I would need to unravel. So those are the things are immoral. Sure, you can have lots of discussions about morality, that's fine. But there are things we know as human beings are immoral. Unless you're a psychopath or a sociopath, that's a whole different problem.
Yeah.
But for our brains, when we look at the swords, I had somebody come to me many years ago, and this person would not tell me the question. They just asked a question in their minds, and I put out a 9-card spread, and my body went upright, and all I did was look him in the eyes, and I pointed, I said, whatever you're going to do, don't do it. And then I took a breath and I stepped back. I used to be a channeler, and I have, psychic stuff that goes on. So I pulled back and I said, I'm really sorry. I'm not supposed to tell you what to do. That was just an energy. What I'll tell you is what you're about to do is going to have huge ramifications on you. It's going to backfire. The devil was there. It was really intense. And he just looked at me and he went, fine. Yes, it is something. That's what I was asking. He didn't tell me the question ever, but showed me that this was the point of the question, like whether it was going to be a bad move or a good move. So, somehow he knew it was going to be a bad move, but I think he was hoping it could to help him out if he did it, right? But it turned out just terrible. So we know. I mean, he didn't need to ask me. He knew.
No, he knew.
Because the moment you have to ask whether my action is going to be a bad one, and inherently it can be bad, then your body mind knows, your gut brain knows, which is really important when you're, as you learn the tarot and you learn what the cards mean, your gut brain starts to react when it comes to an answer. If you're not already in tune with the gut brain and your intuition, or if you are psychic, some people are psychic. And again, that's spectrum. Because you can be, one psychic can be on one part of the spectrum, another psychic can be on another part. It's neither good or bad, it's just what it is. Because people kind of go to tarot card readers or psychics or channelers and just expect that they all know everything. Oh, yeah, right. So again, if I knew everything, I would just make my life perfect.
Just win the lottery every week. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd win the lottery, and why would I would do only things I really enjoy doing, and that's the end of it. You know,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to get up every day and make your bread and butter, right? You could, yeah, I would tell people that all the time. Do you think I'd be sitting here, you know, reading tarot cards? And it's so hard to do. And each person is so different, and people can be extremely difficult. Now I'm very selective of my clients, but I did start off as a young person in a store.
Yeah, just
I
doing
sat there
everybody's.
reading for people day in and day out. Now, you could say, well, that's okay. Yeah, but you're in a store. People are walking by, talking to you, saying strange things all day long. It's here, it can be minus 20 Celsius, you know, for days on end in the winter. And there was a crack with a hole in the window, you know, so it was freezing. And just that area was so cold, and just sitting there all day. It was dusty. There were cats. You know, it's a shop. It's got a lot of dust, a lot. You know, this particular air. You know, in a way, thank God the window was cracked. But on the other hand, you're freezing. Why would I sit there all day just to make, you know, a pittance, you know, to start your business? And I'm supposed to know everything. I thought it was hilarious. Like, what a paradox. You see me freezing, you see the crack in the window,
Yeah.
you know, and I go, okay, I'm really cold. Sorry, I can't take off my coat. You know, I need a lot of things on because it's freezing. And they're like, oh yeah, there's a crack in the window. And they turn around and think you know everything. It's very, very strange. Very, very strange how our minds operate. We don't think properly, you know. And imagine somebody who has a stronger intellect is not going to walk into a store and see a woman in a corner freezing to death and going, yeah, let me ask her questions. I wouldn't.
She hasn't got it worked out.
It's very strange. It's all very, you know, when I look back on my life, and I enjoyed at the time everything I was doing, but it was hard. You know, it wasn't easy. It's not easy to deal with the public.
Yeah.
You know, if you think of the 1 to 10 of swords, you're constantly maneuvering through different intellects. Even if you're a customer service representative, or, you know, there's so many jokes made about somebody in a, you know, on the return line or airplane. You know, do you know who I am? Just, what do you mean, do I know who you are? What does it matter?
You're a person.
It's very hard to deal with the rigid defense patterns of an individual.
Yeah.
So I find you have to kind of build up the strength. I remember once I had an airline ticket from Hong Kong back home, and when I booked the ticket, to me it was too short. So I had to go from Hong Kong, land in Chicago.
Right.
And in Chicago, there was just like an hour to get from one plane to the other. But when you land in the US, you have to go through customs. So they call it a legal or illegal ticket. Most people probably know this. So I said, is this a legal ticket? Yeah. If they booked it for you, it's fine. And I'm sitting there, you know, my gut is telling me this is not going to work. So when I left Hong Kong, I went to the wicket and I said, well, is this a legal ticket? She said, you know what, you better go check, you know, at customer service. So not only am I there, but I go to customer service. This is the fourth time I'm checking.
Yeah.
See if it's a legal ticket. Fourth time, because I called when I booked it. Is it a legal ticket? When I left, now I'm asking this girl, here's the fourth time around. It's hilarious. I go in and he goes, well, it looks like a legal ticket. He checked, he went on the computer, he said, it looks like a legal ticket. I said, but how is it possible that I'm going to get through customs and get to the airplane? I mean, this, you know, you have to walk miles in some, you know, airports. He goes, it's fine. Of course we get there, and the line is 3 hours to get through. We're standing 3 hours. It was half an hour, you know, it goes back and forth like this, and it's half an hour. And everybody's freaking out. I looked at everyone and said, you're not going to get your plane. It's done. It's over with.
Yeah.
Yes, but we should yell. I said, okay, try and yell. It's customs. So they'll take you aside. I mean, I've seen it. I know we have illegal tickets, all of us. These tickets are not correct. So we all missed the plane. Like, I don't know how many people. So, we trudge over to the customer service. And of course, we're all going in different places. So I'm going to the plane that goes to Montreal. And I look at the girl and I said, well, we missed the plane. We need to be rebooked. And she just looks at me and says, why would you ever book this ticket?
You're like,
Well, it was really, and she was quite obnoxious. So I said, be calm. This is a different circumstance, So I looked at her, but I was firm. And I said, I asked
questioned it 4 times.
I booked it. I described the whole thing. And, she kind of calmed down. And of course, she turned and looked at my shoes and she said, you have really nice shoes. And I'm like, okay. So she's trying to make up
some theory.
But it's so interesting, right? I'm here. You did it wrong. I even went to the hospital quite a few years ago to get some scans, x-rays. So I said to her, just give me a moment. I've been standing a long time and I'm in a lot of pain. And it's going to be difficult for me to get onto that, straight up bed, but I will do it, and you might see tears coming down. Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of saying, this is not a drama. This is just really hard. So, the tears are flowing. I'm not woo-hoo or anything, but it's whoa, your eyes are burning and, the tears are coming down. And I'm like, okay. And I get myself on it. And she kind of whacks my leg gently. And she says, why'd you wait so long to get into this state? And I'm looking at her just going, wow, this is 6 years. I'm trying to get someone to figure out what's going on with me. I didn't even answer. I didn't even say anything. I was so flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Well, why would you even, here's the mind, right?
Yeah.
Why would you even suppose this is the only minute I waited till now? No, I didn't wait till now. And you have no idea what doctors have said to me. You're not bad enough. Another doctor just whacked my leg and said, you exercise too much. And I was looking at her like, I can't walk anymore. I fall down. Why?
How can I
exercise? I love exercising. I had to, finally, after a year of really, really trying with my trainer, I'd been with her 10 years. And finally I said, can't do it anymore. Every time we train together, I can't move after, because what I have is more movement. And if you do it wrong, you're just in intense pain. So yeah, flabbergasted, right? So sometimes you don't even answer the mind, because whatever, I don't blame her for anything, or it's just interesting, where a person will be and what they need. Who knows what she was going through? She might be like, enough with these people, because in the medical system or even our work, right? It's not like somebody comes to you because they're happy.
I'm so happy. It needs fixing.
Yeah, because in all the years I've done tarot for people, and it's paid professionally. That's since 1995 I started professionally. I had a couple of people come and they were very, very happy about things. They're getting married, life is going well. And I just would look at them and go, why do you want a tarot reading if everything's, you're on your path? Why do you need a tarot reading? And they go, oh, I just want to know if it's all going to work out. And I'm like, oh, the mind is already bringing in doubt, or the gut is, which one? So their gut knows something's off.
Something's off, and they want to know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. One woman, I said, you're going to split up with your partner. And she was quite violent. She went like this with her fourth finger. She had a massive ring. So look, I'm engaged. I'm getting married.
Yeah.
I'm getting married in June. You're dead wrong, lady. And I said, well, you came here to ask a question. I can't change the reading. Despite your ring, despite your engagement, it says you're going to split. Anyway, she did. Eventually, there was another gal too who came in and had all these debts. And I said, well, you're here asking this question, do you really want to know the answer? And they usually say yes. So somehow the gut is bypassing the brain, right? Which is good. That's good if your gut knows, hey, this is not going to work out. But the brain is telling you it should work out, or not. Most of us think the mind is up here. I mean, the mind is everywhere. And when you meet up with someone, the mind, your mind meets with my mind, and we have an exchange, right? So mind is not what we conceive it to be. I have an engineering husband, engineering brain. I say, where's the mind? He goes, it's up here. I'm like, it's not really, it's everywhere. There's consciousness everywhere. And he's like, yeah, but I can't think of it that way. I can only think of mind is my brain. Even my dad does that. Mind is my brain. I go, really? Really? It's no, it's not. Because the gut brain makes the decisions.
Yeah.
It tells you, when your gut tells you something, that's part of mind, but it's the clear part that knows the choice you need to make. If you go against it, okay.
But you can doubt it, because sometimes your gut's telling you something, and then you're like, I want to go for a tarot reading and know if my gut is right.
Yeah, bizarro, right? Because we have to go in the mind, which, now I'm in this contents, and all this stuff is telling me, yeah, but he's so sweet. I've got the ring, we've got the date, everything's working out. But my gut's telling me it's not going to work out.
Something coming up.
Something's coming up. So I need a reader to verify it, but then I'm going to, these were the difficult things for me, where mind becomes so powerful that the querent starts to get angry at the answer to the question that verifies their gut. Because the mind just starts to hyper react, and we believe that content. So is there healthy intellect? Of course there is. When the gut knows it's healthy, that you're coming for a tarot reading because your gut is telling you maybe this isn't going to work out, super healthy. But when the mind converges, or just comes down on you and starts saying, yeah, but, because, yeah, but, yeah, but, yeah, but, I don't care about your yeah buts. What's that story I love from Sex and the City? The character Charlotte goes for a tarot reading, and she says, will I get married? The tarot reader puts it out and says, no. And she says, why? Well, I'm a tarot reader, I'm not a psychologist.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting how you could turn towards psychology, and we have to be very careful not to start the analysis. You could give them almost like breadcrumbs through the reading that will show you, what are your what are your superpowers? Right? So you could have a superpower of the gift of gab. You could have a superpower of compassion. Right? You could have these superpowers, but you could use them. They can be ill used. So, like, one of my strong essences is willfulness, which is stubbornness. But when I use my will, externally to do things to help others, then my will, this is the recent thing I've been doing with myself, is turning my will and telling myself, no, you can't do that. Stop it. And I'm finding it so strange. There's almost this wall of energy that is so strong, and I'm attracted to it. And whenever I'm attracted to it, it's just very energetic. I'm attracted to it. I turn and I go, no, you're not allowed to go there. No, you have to go this way. And this way is to rest the body, to let the body do what it needs to do. Let's say the mind. So if I put my swords out or I put a reading out. Usually there are a lot of swords interspersed in my healing, because the mind will encourage the will, or the contents of my mind encourage my will to hold me up, to make sure that I'm in movement. And when I do that, I usually go to the doctor, and the doctor sees me and just doesn't see a problem. So this time I'm using my will to go, stop trying to be put together. So the next time I go to the doctor, hopefully I'll be falling apart really well, right? Because I tend to feel really good when I go to the doctor, come home, I'm falling apart. And I'm like, well, how come they don't know? So now that you can see this dissonance. So I need to let the body fall apart and get there and be falling apart. And already I can see that I have to walk quite far to get there. There's a 5-minute walk, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I even going to do a 5-minute walk? I know I could get into a wheelchair, but there's a part of me that goes, I don't want to be in a wheelchair. I just don't want to do it. I'm going to push through. I'll fall apart at the end. So it's very interesting. So the mind can do a lot of good things and a lot of strange things. Very, very strange things. So that's what you're reading. Where is the mind encouraging aspect, or where is my energy encouraging aspects of the mind to be realized? Right? So if I think I'm incompetent, then I'm going to try to be competent. I'm going to keep pushing to be competent. But as I do that, the tension of the opposite gets stronger as well. So here, oh, look, I did it. Oh, no, I failed. And then you go back into incompetency. So the mind is our nemesis until we're able to use the intellect properly. And the cards are going to show you whether that individual is using the intellect properly. Even if you have like the 9 of Swords, and that's a very difficult moment, but it also indicates its ending. So the cards that come after are going to show us whether we've gone through the process of ending difficult connections to the mind. You know, oh my God, I've been thinking all these insane things. I've been thinking they're true. Well, now, time to let it go. Time to dump it. What do you think? I know this is not so much for you to talk, but you know, I think you know this stuff really well in your own way, right?
Yeah.
You know, you do it a little differently, and I think that's really important, is that we see different perspectives on how to deal with mind and how to sort of disassociate with the contents of the mind, so you could actually listen to intuition. I think that's what you do, right? A lot of the work that you do.
Yeah. But the like when we were talking about the gut, it is sometimes the intuition coming up, and then the doubt. You see it with people; they doubt it. It's like, well, that can't be the case. You know, it's just like, I don't want that. I don't want to see it. You know, and so then they're creating something different, and then of course, what happens? Exactly what they saw, and they're like, oh.
Yeah, right. And that's such a great when the gut tells us something, usually later we go, I knew it. I knew it. So you know exactly what's going to happen. It could be a faint murmur for some people.
Yeah.
Some people say
it's not always like a slap in the face. Sometimes it's subtle.
Some people it's subtle, which is, I don't know about you, but throughout my life, there's a thing that people say, don't assume someone knows what you know. That's a difficult one, right? Because we usually think everyone around us knows the same things we know. Yeah. And
and that they can do everything that we can do as well.
Exactly. And I've really encountered that problem in myself. And that comes from a false sense of, I'm the stupidest one, right? I'm the dumbest person. So if I'm the dumbest person, everybody has to know what I know.
Interesting.
Right? So they know more than me. Right? And, I remember, experiencing myself that way, just really, it's a little hard to describe because there's a paradox that goes on. I always had the courage to talk. I always had the courage to speak. I always had the courage to even get up and speak in public. Here we are online now. I always had the courage to speak, but I always thought everyone knew what I knew. And some people know what I know and they know more. That's not the point, right?
Yeah.
The point is that you can misinterpret so many things if you assume everyone knows what you know. And we do it all the time. I think I haven't really met people who, sometimes people go, okay, I know that and I know better than you. That's fine too. Those are difficulties in the mind. But if you sit down and say, okay, we're all pretty darn unique in the way we're going to perceive something, and we need to be able to speak what we're perceiving. That way, somebody else can ask you a question about what you're saying. And if they ask you a question, you need to clarify it, which challenges the sort of structure, let's say, of your beliefs. And that way, there's more and more flexibility. If no one can question you, you remain rigid. The fun thing between me and my husband is, when we started dating, we had some real differences in viewpoints about things. And over the years, he said, you've really changed the way I think. And I feel the same way. There's so many things I was unable to put into words properly because I lived so much in channeling and intuition. I just speak from intuition. And the intellect, let's say the left brain for the moment, it's not quite that, but it wasn't supporting, there wasn't a good, grounded, let's say, explanation of what was going on. And he's taught me to ground that, even if it's a story or, I can go off sometimes and people could say, well, that's a little out there. But I try to pull myself back, right? So I can go a little bit out there and then I stop and something in my gut stops me and I come back. Well, let's get an example, like the airport example I gave, or, so that we understand these journeys we go through. And part of the journey is I have, let's say, Ace of Swords, I have an idea, goes to Two of Swords. I'm kind of figuring out the relationship. 3, maybe I start to speak it. And that would be going to Earth after, but in 3 would be someone else's idea kind of blasting mine. And it would go back to the heart, and you feel hurt. If you feel hurt by your idea being blasted, that's the worst thing possible, because it means your intellect isn't working. It means you're identified with your ideas, so you feel hurt. I have an idea. Somebody says, well, you got a few problems in your idea. They're being helpful. They're showing you where you're going to go wrong in the future. And you're hurt? Wow, that's a big problem.
People feel attacked. You're attacking my idea.
Yeah. If your belief is attacked, try and tell one country versus another country you're not who you think you are. We had the Canadian Prime Minister say Canada has no identity. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? We have an identity. We have a clear identity. When I'm not talking about identification in a negative way.
Yeah.
I'm talking about an identity that's structure of peoples and what we believe and what we think. I mean, this country is created with so much of salt of the earth. there's so many people who work farms and in nature. This country's pretty cool,
Yeah.
and that we have multi-cultures, this really strange thing where we have Quebec, we have other parts too that are really, really different, especially Quebec, because we speak an entirely different language. I mean, this is a bilingual country, but that's part of the identity, is that we're a bilingual country. It's part of the identity that, we think we don't have an identity is an identity. We think that we don't have, what is it? How can I put it? We think that we're just open to every idea. We're just open. We're an open people. We're kind, we're polite. We've taken that British thing where we say sorry if somebody steps on your foot or pushes into you. Sorry. There's even a show called How I Met Your Mother.
Oh,
and one of the gals is
Canadian, yeah.
And she goes into this Canadian, it's in New York, and it's a little Canadian bar, so she goes there every so often to get a little Canadian on. Well, that's an identity, for goodness sake. There are structures, there are definite ideas about Canadian. You don't walk around and see people with backpacks with the American flag. No, but Canadians have that maple leaf on their bag.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. Very interesting thing he said. I was very, kind of surprised that we, that he says we have a no identity, but if we have no identity, that is an identity.
Yes. Yeah.
Believing you have no identity is an identity. You walk around going, I don't have an identity.
I don't know who I am. Who am I today?
Well, I mean Canada, the matrix. I don't necessarily mean the individual. Like, I don't have an identity as a Canadian, so that's an identity. And here's my Canadian flag to show you I don't have an identity. And look at all the disparate provinces and how they're so different means we don't have an identity. It's like, those are all identities. It's, just try to see what happens when you call a Canadian an American.
Oh my word, don't do that.
If you don't have an identity, then it's okay if you're called an American.
Yeah.
So what? You call me an American, it doesn't matter. Why be offended? I have no identity anyway, and I don't really identify with American. You could say I'm American. You go, okay.
Oh, okay, whatever.
I don't need to say, then you don't say I'm Canadian.
Yeah,
if you have no identity, you wouldn't reply that way. If you have no identity, don't call yourself the Canadian Prime Minister. Yes. You're the Prime Minister of what?
Yeah.
Sorry, really funny. Good. Yeah, it's quite interesting the way in which we live in this cognitive dissonance. So yeah, I know this is a huge topic that we described here. I'm not teaching you the tarot. I'm talking about concepts behind it. You want to learn tarot? Get these to our website and start. We've put together all these videos. You can join the membership. I don't know when we're going to open the membership again, but you can join next time. Keep watching for the membership. And you can have me at your disposal twice a month. So you can ask a lot of questions and we go really in depth into the cards. It's rather beautiful.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fun, and our group I am blown away at how well in such a short period of time they learn to read the cards, and now it's evolving beautifully. Like, I would highly recommend any one of them to go get a tarot reading from.
Start pimping them out at some point.
No, just I'm not going to say who they are. If they ever want a shout out, we can do that, and you can get a reading. Beautiful. Oh, we should tell them that, eh? That's a good little.
Well, if they're watching.
Right, and you guys, if you're watching, tell me if you want me to put your name out for tarot readings, just your website or your
We may have
contact.
a directory of amazing people at some point.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And you could, our little group, you could open up an email that says that's just for your tarot, and we could post that here, and you could have people calling you for readings.
Yay.
Kind of cool.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
So
all right, I think we have to end because you and I have appointments. Yes.
Yeah.
As always, wonderful to have you catalyze me into action here. And we will see everyone next week.
Yeah, we'll see everyone next week. Any questions, pop them below and we'll catch up next week.
Yes. Thank you.